My name is Allie, and I'm 32 years old. I once believed family meant unconditional love and support no matter what. That illusion shattered last Christmas when my parents and siblings presented me with a gift wrapped box at dinner. My excitement quickly turned to horror as I unwrapped a cracked mirror covered in handwritten insults. They laughed and toasted to my failure while I sat frozen in humiliation. That cruel moment became my unexpected turning point. Before I share how I transform this pain into triumph, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button and join me on this journey of reclamation. I grew up in an affluent suburb outside Boston, in a sprawling colonial home that looked perfect from the outside. My father Thomas was a prestigious cardiac surgeon at Massachusetts General Hospital, known for his steady hands and cold precision. My mother Diane was a high-end realtor who specialized in luxury properties. Her carefully maintained appearance and social connections her most valuable assets. From the beginning, our family operated on achievement and appearances, rather than emotional connection. My brother James was 3 years older than me, groomed from childhood to follow in our father's footsteps. Every science fair victory and academic achievement was celebrated lavishly. My sister Kimberly, 2 years younger, inherited our mother's natural beauty and social grace. Her ballet recitals and popularity milestones received champagne toasts and professional photography sessions. Then there was me, the middle child who loved art and creative expression, in a family that valued practicality and prestige. My earliest memories involved drawing elaborate scenes that covered every piece of paper I could find. When I was 6, I created a mural on my bedroom wall, while my parents hosted an important dinner party. Rather than seeing the creative potential, my father scrubbed it off while lecturing me about property values and appropriate behavior. Art is a hobby, Allie, not a career path, became my mother's refrain whenever I mentioned my passion. Successful people need marketable skills. At family gatherings, my cousins received praise for athletic achievements and academic honors, while my sketchbooks were dismissed as cute little doodles. When my 8th grade art teacher suggested I apply to a summer program at the Museum of Fine Arts, my parents conveniently lost the application forms. When I recreated them myself and secured a partial scholarship, my mother scheduled a family vacation that exactly overlapped with the program dates. Family comes first, she said with a tight smile. There will be other opportunities. But those opportunities were consistently undermined. My art supplies would mysteriously disappear before important project deadlines. My requests for rides to weekend art classes were forgotten, while James never missed a science competition. And Kimberly always arrived early to dance rehearsals. By high school, I learned to hide my artistic pursuits. I joined the debate team and took AP Economics to earn parental approval painting secretly late at night after everyone was asleep. When my hidden watercolor won a regional competition, my parents attended the award ceremony, but spent the entire evening networking with judges, rather than acknowledging my achievement. It's nice that you have a creative outlet, my father said afterward. But let's focus on college applications now. Art schools are expensive and impractical. Under relentless pressure, I eventually applied to business programs instead of art schools. When Boston University offered me a partial scholarship for their business administration program, my parents finally seemed pleased. I convinced myself that I could minor in art history and still pursue creativity on the side. College offered some freedom, but the pattern of undermining continued. Care packages arrived for midterms containing business books rather than the art supplies I'd requested. Holiday conversations centered around internship opportunities in finance and consulting. Any mention of gallery exhibitions or design workshops swiftly redirected. During sophomore year, I met Jack in my marketing class. He was creative despite his business major, with plans to work in advertising, where he could combine strategic thinking with visual concepts. For the first time, I felt understood and supported in balancing practicality with passion. When I brought him home for Thanksgiving, my parents seemed approving, at least initially. "He's going places," my father commented after dinner. "Smart choice, much better than those artistic types you used to moon over." But as our relationship grew serious, my family's attitude shifted. They began pointing out Jack's concerning traits: his casual clothing, his unconventional career goals, his supportive attitude toward my art. After he helped me create a portfolio website, my mother called to express concern about my professional image. When he encouraged me to take a summer illustration course, my father questioned his intentions. He should want what's best for you, Dad argued. Why would he encourage impractical pursuits unless he doesn't really care about your future? Their persistent undermining created tension in our relationship. Jack couldn't understand why I wouldn't stand up to them more firmly while I'd been conditioned to seek their approval. We broke up during senior year, another casualty of my family's manipulation. Graduation coincided with the 2015 economic recession. As entry-level positions disappeared and competition intensified, my carefully constructed business career path collapsed. Meanwhile, James secured a spot in a prestigious medical school, and Kimberly landed a marketing position at a luxury brand despite being 2 years behind me in school. With student loans coming due and no prospects, I reluctantly moved back home. What was supposed to be a temporary arrangement stretched into months as rejection letters piled up. Each family dinner became an exercise in humiliation. Still no job offers, my father would ask before detailing James's medical school accomplishments. Your university career center must be terrible. My mother would comment, then immediately praise Kimberly's rapid promotion. Each night, I retreated to my childhood bedroom, now stripped of any personality, and converted to a proper guest room within weeks of my college departure. They're surrounded by beige walls and generic decor. I felt myself disappearing into the background of my own life just as my family had always preferred. The economic recession that forced me back to my parents' house seemed to specifically target recent business graduates, while sparing every industry my siblings pursued. After 3 months of fruitless job hunting, I accepted an administrative assistant position at a small insurance office. The pay barely covered my student loan payments, and the work was mind-numbing, but it was employment. Administrative assistant is just a fancy term for secretary, my mother remarked when I shared the news. But I suppose it's a start. At family dinners, my job became the punchline to various jokes. My father would ask if I'd made any important coffee decisions today, while my mother wondered aloud how my business degree was helping me file paperwork. Even as I tried to highlight small victories, organizing a new filing system, streamlining the office scheduling process, these achievements were dismissed as trivial. Meanwhile, James completed his first year of medical school with honors. My parents threw an elaborate party to celebrate, inviting their entire social circle to toast his accomplishments. As I helped serve appetizers, multiple guests asked if I was the catering staff. Kimberly's ascent was equally meteoric. Within a year at her marketing job, she was promoted to junior brand manager and began dating Elliot, a financial analyst from a well-connected family. My parents were ecstatic, immediately incorporating him into family events and traditions as if he'd always belonged. During Sunday brunch, my father raised his mimosa glass. To Kimberly and Elliot, proof that the right connection can accelerate success. The unspoken comparison to my failed relationship with Jack and stalled career hung in the air. Each family gathering became more elaborate than the last, showcasing my siblings' achievements while highlighting my inadequacies. At James's white coat ceremony, my mother introduced me to her friends as our daughter who's finding her way. At Kimberly's 25th birthday celebration, I overheard my father telling relatives, "We're still waiting for Allie to launch." After 6 months, I transferred to a receptionist position at a larger company that offered slightly better pay. The office was closer to downtown with a small storage closet that the building manager sometimes let me use during lunch breaks. There, surrounded by cleaning supplies and old office equipment, I began sketching again on discarded paper, finding brief moments of peace in creative expression. It was at this new job that I met Tara, an account manager who noticed me drawing while eating lunch in the break room. Unlike my family, she stopped to actually look at my work. "These are incredible," she said, flipping through my sketchbook without permission but with genuine appreciation. "Why are you answering phones instead of selling these?" Her question caught me off guard. Years of family conditioning had convinced me my art was worthless beyond personal satisfaction. When I mumbled something about practical careers, Tara rolled her eyes. "My sister makes 6 figures selling digital illustrations online," she countered. "There's nothing impractical about doing what you're actually good at." That conversation planted a seed. That weekend, I created an online portfolio and listed a few digital prints for sale on an artisan marketplace. When someone actually purchased one, 3 weeks later, I felt a surge of validation unlike anything my family had ever provided. Someone paid actual money for my art. I told my mother during our weekly call, unable to contain my excitement. After a pause, she replied, "That's nice, dear, but don't quit your day job over a lucky break." Despite the dismissal, I continued creating art in secret. Each small sale boosted my confidence and expanded my vision of possible futures. I began researching apartment listings, calculating exactly how much I would need to save for security deposits and basic furnishings. Freedom required financial independence, and I was determined to escape my parents' influence. Over 6 months, I saved nearly every penny from my receptionist job eating ramen noodles for dinner and walking 3 miles to work to avoid bus fare. When I found a tiny studio apartment in a less desirable neighborhood that I could actually afford, it felt like discovering buried treasure. The day before signing the lease, my father called with an urgent family matter. My parents needed a small loan to cover unexpected expenses. The amount they requested matched almost exactly what I'd saved for my apartment deposit. "Family supports family," my father insisted. "We've given you free housing for nearly 2 years. This is the least you can do in return." Trapped by guilt and conditioning, I transferred the money. 2 weeks later, Kimberly announced her engagement to Elliot with a lavish party at an exclusive restaurant. The unexpected expense had been her 5-carat diamond ring and engagement celebration. As I watched my sister flaunt the physical embodiment of my lost freedom, something inside me hardened. I stopped sharing any information about my plans or dreams with my family. I opened a new bank account they couldn't access and began saving again, more determined than ever to escape. With the holiday season approaching, anxiety consumed me. Christmas at the Montgomery household had always been a carefully orchestrated performance of family perfection, with professionally decorated trees, catered meals, and expensive gifts that demonstrated status rather than thoughtfulness. This year, James would be bringing his new girlfriend, a fellow medical student from a prominent family. Kimberly and Elliot would be showcasing their wedding plans, and I would once again be the family disappointment, the empty chair at the achievement table. As December progressed, my depression deepened. Each family text about holiday planning increased my sense of dread. Each night, I lay awake wondering how much longer I could endure being the designated failure in a family obsessed with success. By Christmas Eve, I was barely functioning, going through motions at work while internally counting down hours until the inevitable humiliation of Christmas Day. Christmas morning dawned with heavy snow blanketing Boston, transforming the city into a scene from a greeting card. I spent extra time getting ready, applying makeup carefully to hide the dark circles from weeks of anxiety-induced insomnia. I chose my outfit strategically, a forest green sweater dress that looked expensive. Though I'd found it on clearance paired with the single piece of real jewelry, I owned a silver necklace from my grandmother. The drive to my parents' Brookline estate took 40 minutes each mile, increasing the tightness in my chest. Classical Christmas music played through the car speakers, a stark contrast to the discordant thoughts swirling in my mind. I rehearsed neutral topics and practiced facial expressions that wouldn't reveal my inner turmoil. Their house looked like a holiday advertisement, with professional lighting outlining every architectural feature and a massive wreath adorning the front door. My mother's designer touch was evident in the coordinated decorations visible through each window. I sat in my car for several minutes, gathering courage, before grabbing the gifts I'd carefully selected despite my limited budget. My father opened the door before I could knock, martini already in hand, though it was barely noon. "You're the last to arrive as usual," he said, instead of a greeting. "Everyone's waiting to start appetizers." The living room tableau could have been photographed for a luxury magazine. My mother in her red cashmere dress, directing the catering staff. James and his girlfriend Amanda discussing medical journals by the fireplace. Kimberly and Elliot examining fabric swatches for their June wedding, while admiring her engagement ring and the Christmas tree lights. Everything coordinated, polished, and perfect, except for my presence. "Allie, darling, finally!" My mother called, air kissing near my cheek to avoid smudging her makeup. Amanda brought homemade pâté from her family's recipe. Isn't that impressive? Some people are just naturally gifted in the kitchen. The familiar pattern of subtle comparisons continued through appetizers. Every conversation somehow highlighted my inadequacies while celebrating my siblings' achievements. By the time we moved to the formal dining room for dinner, I'd already counted 15 separate instances of undermining disguised as casual conversation. The meal itself was an elaborate six-course affair, catered by a restaurant my mother had featured in her latest luxury property listing. Each dish arrived with a detailed description of its ingredients, and preparation my father pairing each course with wines from his collection. "James, how is your research fellowship application progressing?" my father asked midway through the main course. My brother launched into a detailed explanation of his groundbreaking research proposal, while Amanda gazed at him adoringly. My parents nodded with obvious pride, asking informed questions that demonstrated how closely they followed his academic pursuits. "And Kimberly, tell everyone about the venue you secured for the reception," my mother prompted next. My sister described the exclusive historical mansion that had a 3-year waiting list, but had mysteriously found a June opening after my father made a call to the board president. Elliot's family was handling the rehearsal dinner at their country club, apparently. When the conversation naturally would have turned to me, my mother smoothly shifted to discussing the catering staff's techniques instead. I had become so irrelevant in family discussions that they no longer even bothered with performative interest in my life. After dinner came the traditional gift exchange, always an exercise in status demonstration rather than thoughtfulness. My father distributed gifts from beneath the designer tree, starting with an expensive watch for James, Swiss made perfect for a surgeon's precision, and diamond earrings for Amanda to welcome you to the family. Kimberly received a set of keys to a new luxury SUV parked in the driveway for our expanding family's future, while Elliot unwrapped membership credentials to my father's exclusive golf club. Time you joined the inner circle. My mother opened a small box containing a deed to a Nantucket vacation property. "We've always wanted a summer home by the water," her practiced surprise fooling no one who knew their financial planning habits. As the expensive gifts piled up around the room, I clutched the small packages I'd brought, a vintage medical book I'd found for James, at a library sale, a handcrafted photo frame for Kimberly, artisanal chocolates for my parents. My offerings now seemed pathetically inadequate amid the luxury surrounding us. Finally, my father stood with theatrical importance, my mother joining him with an unusual smile. "We've saved a very special gift for Allie until last," he announced, his tone causing conversations to halt. Diane and I put considerable thought into what Allie truly needs at this point in her life. My siblings exchanged knowing glances as my father retrieved a large, heavy box wrapped in elegant silver paper with an elaborate bow. My stomach tightened with apprehension, but a small, hopeful part of me wondered if perhaps they'd finally seen me, really seen me, and chosen something meaningful. "This is from all of us," my mother added as they placed the substantial package before me. We selected it together. With everyone watching, I carefully untied the ribbon and removed the paper to reveal a wooden box with ornate hinges. The craftsmanship was undeniable, momentarily sparking hope that they'd perhaps chosen an artist's case or specialized storage for creative materials. I lifted the heavy lid to find what initially appeared to be an antique mirror in an ornate frame nestled in velvet lining. For one brief shining moment, I thought they'd finally acknowledged my aesthetic sensibilities by selecting something vintage and beautiful. Then I lifted it from the box, and the reality became clear. The mirror was cracked in multiple places, spiderwebbing across the surface. The glass was smudged and dirty, but most horrifying were the words written across every section in various handwriting styles. My family members' handwriting: failure, disappointment, burden, waste of potential, embarrassment, talentless, unmotivated, ugly, pathetic dreamer, family shame. Each fragment reflected a distorted piece of my face, broken and labeled with their judgment. I stared at it in shock, unable to process the deliberate cruelty of the gift. A moment of silence hung in the room before my father raised his wine glass. "To Allie's reflection of reality," he toasted. My mother, James, Kimberly, and even their partners lifted their glasses in response, laughter following. Maybe seeing yourself clearly will finally motivate some real changes. My mother added, her smile never reaching her eyes. We even use that art you love so much, Kimberly noted, pointing to the handwritten insults. Multimedia, right? It's an intervention of sorts, James explained in his clinical tone. Sometimes patients need shock therapy to break through denial. I couldn't speak, couldn't cry, couldn't scream. Something fundamental broke inside me as I stared at the physical manifestation of how my family truly saw me. Without a word, I carefully placed the mirror back in its box, closed the lid, and stood up. Allie, don't be so sensitive, my mother started, but I was already walking toward the door, grabbing my coat without looking back. You're proving our point by running away, my father called after me. No resilience, no backbone. I walked out into the snowy night without responding, the bitter cold matching the frozen feeling in my chest. I left their gifts behind, but took the mirrored box of horrors, clutching it as I walked aimlessly through snow-covered streets. For hours, I wandered, barely noticing the cold seeping through my dress and thin coat. Festive lights blurred through my tears as I passed happy families in warm homes. Eventually, I found myself at an all-night diner, the only place open on Christmas evening. I sat in a corner booth, the box placed on the table before me, unable to look inside again, but unable to abandon it. The elderly waitress name tag reading Ruth brought coffee without me ordering. Nobody should be alone on Christmas looking that heartbroken, she said, sliding into the seat across from me. Want to talk about it? Her kindness broke through my shock. I found myself telling this stranger about the mirror, about years of systematic undermining about the family that seemed to delight in my pain. Ruth listened without interruption, her weathered face compassionate. When I finally fell silent, she reached across the table to take my hand. Honey, that's not family, that's abuse, she said simply. Real love doesn't need to break you down to build you up. Real family sees your light and helps it shine brighter. Her words penetrated years of conditioning. But they're successful, respected people, I whispered. Successful at what? Making their own daughter feel worthless. Ruth shook her head. That's not success, that's failure of the worst kind. For the first time, I allowed myself to consider that perhaps the broken one wasn't me. It was the dynamic my family had created. Ruth brought me more coffee and a slice of pie. On the house, then slipped me her phone number on a napkin before her shift ended. Found family is sometimes better than born family, she said as she left. You deserve people who recognize your worth. At midnight, I finally called Tara, the only person I could think of who might understand. Despite the late hour and holiday, she answered immediately. I need help, I admitted, my voice breaking. Tell me where you are. I'm coming to get you, she replied without hesitation. 20 minutes later, her car pulled up outside the diner. When she saw my tear-stained face and the ornate box, she simply hugged me, asking no questions as she drove me to her apartment. Only when we were safely inside did I open the box and show her the cruel mirror. Her expression shifted from shock to rage to fierce protectiveness. You are never going back there, she stated with absolute certainty. You're staying with me tonight, and tomorrow we're making a plan for your permanent escape. On her comfortable couch, wrapped in borrowed pajamas and a warm blanket, I fell into exhausted sleep, with the first real decision I'd made in years. This would be the last time my family broke me. I awoke the next morning in Tara's apartment with sunlight streaming through unfamiliar curtains and the scent of coffee filling the air. For a moment, disorientation clouded my thoughts before the previous day's events crashed back with painful clarity. The mirror, the laughter, the escape into the snowy night. Tara sat at her small kitchen table with a notepad already dressed, and apparently midway through creating some kind of list. When she noticed me stirring, she brought over a steaming mug of coffee. I hope you like it strong, she said, setting it on the side table. We've got work to do today. Her matter-of-fact approach was exactly what I needed. No pity, just practical action. After a quick shower and borrowed clothes, I joined her at the table where she'd created a comprehensive escape plan. The page was divided into sections: housing, finance, communication, employment, and support system. First, you're staying here until we find you a safe apartment, she stated, brooking no argument. I've got a spare room my roommate left when she moved in with her boyfriend. It's yours for as long as you need it. My phone had been buzzing intermittently all morning. When I finally checked, there were 37 text messages and 12 missed calls from family members. None expressed concern for my well-being. Instead, they ranged from James's clinical assessment of my emotional instability to Kimberly's accusation that I'd ruined Christmas with dramatic behavior. My mother demanded I return to apologize for my childish exit, while my father simply texted, "When you're ready to grow up and face reality, we'll discuss your behavior." Tara watched my face as I scrolled through the messages, her expression hardening. "Give me that," she said, taking the phone. Within minutes, she'd changed my number through an online portal, transferred my important contacts, and set up email filters to direct family messages to a separate folder I could check when emotionally prepared. "Step 1 complete," she announced, handing the phone back. "Communication boundaries established." That afternoon, we tackled finances. I'd been saving in secret, but the amount was pitiful given Boston's high cost of living. Tara helped me create a detailed budget that accounted for every dollar, identifying areas where I could increase savings by sharing expenses with her temporarily. "Your receptionist job barely covers necessities," she noted, examining my pay stubs. "You need income that actually reflects your skills." She pulled up my online art portfolio, which had made occasional small sales but nothing substantial. "This is good, really good, but it's buried where no one can find it," she observed. "We need to market your work properly." Over the next week, with Tara's spare room as my safe harbor, I implemented our plan methodically. I found a second job working evening shifts at a local gallery, which paid modestly but offered valuable exposure to the art world. I reorganized my online portfolio, with Tara's help creating dedicated social media accounts, separate from my personal ones that family could potentially track. Each night after my gallery shift, I would return to Tara's apartment and convert her living room into a temporary studio. The mirror box remained closed in the corner, a reminder I wasn't yet ready to face but couldn't discard. 3 weeks after Christmas, I posted a series of new digital illustrations, abstract pieces, that subtly incorporated themes of fractured identity and emotional gaslighting. To my shock, they began selling almost immediately. A design blog featured one image, bringing a wave of traffic to my portfolio. Commissions started trickling in small projects that paid little individually but collectively supplemented my income meaningfully. By February, I'd saved enough for security deposit on a tiny studio apartment in an upcoming artist neighborhood. The space was barely 400 square feet, but it had large windows that flooded the room with natural light, perfect for creating art. Most importantly, it was mine, secured with no financial ties to my family. The day I moved in, Tara helped carry the few belongings I'd accumulated since Christmas. When everything was arranged, she presented me with a housewarming gift, a set of professional-grade art supplies I'd mentioned wanting but considered too expensive. "From your first big commission," she predicted confidently, "you're going to make it Allie. Not because they said you couldn't, but because you were always meant to." That night alone in my new space, I finally opened the mirrored box. The cruel words still stared back at me, but something had shifted in my perspective. Where before I'd seen only pain and rejection, now I saw potential. Taking a deep breath, I carefully removed the broken mirror and placed it on my makeshift drafting table. This symbol of cruelty could be transformed. Each fragment reflecting their hatred could be repurposed to reflect something new: my resilience, my creativity, my emerging self-definition. I began sketching concepts for a series of mixed media pieces, incorporating broken mirror fragments and transformative text. My social media followers responded enthusiastically to posts documenting this new artistic direction. As February turned to March, my online sales doubled, then tripled. A local coffee shop offered me wall space for a month-long exhibition, my first physical showcase opportunity. Meanwhile, my family's attempts to reestablish contact grew increasingly aggressive. When they couldn't reach me through my blocked number, they began contacting former classmates and coworkers searching for information. My cousin messaged that they'd shown up at my old apartment building, demanding access from the property manager. Their persistence only strengthened my resolve to maintain boundaries. Each flying monkey they dispatched, each manipulation attempt, became further confirmation that I'd made the right decision in severing contact. Through the artist community at the gallery where I worked evenings, I connected with mentors who recognized my potential and offered guidance. An accomplished mixed media artist named Sophia took particular interest in my mirror series, offering technical advice and conceptual feedback that elevated my work. "You're channeling genuine emotion into these pieces," she observed during one critique session. "That authenticity resonates with viewers." And Sophia introduced me to other local artists, gradually expanding my support network beyond just Tara. For the first time, I found myself surrounded by people who valued creativity and self-expression, who saw my artistic vision as a strength rather than a frivolous distraction. As spring arrived, Sophia approached me with unexpected news. The gallery, where she served as curator, was planning a group exhibition focused on emotional resilience and personal transformation. One featured artist had withdrawn unexpectedly. "I'd like to offer you the empty slot," she said. "Your mirror series fits our theme perfectly. It's short notice, the opening is in 6 weeks, but I think you're ready." The opportunity was both exhilarating and terrifying. A legitimate gallery exhibition could launch my career in ways I'd barely allowed myself to dream about. But it also meant public vulnerability, exposing my pain and recovery process to critical scrutiny. After a sleepless night considering the offer, I called Sophia to accept. The next 6 weeks became a blur of frantic creativity, working my day job gallery evening shifts and spending every remaining hour creating new pieces for the exhibition. The centerpiece would be the original Christmas mirror transformed into an installation piece I titled Reflection Rejection that incorporated each cruel word alongside its empowered opposite. Failure became resilient, burden became independent, disappointment became authentic. The broken glass would be arranged to create a mosaic self-portrait emerging from the fragments. The night before the exhibition opening, I received an anonymous text from an unfamiliar number. "We know about your little art show tomorrow. Expect us. Family always shows up for important events, don't they?" My hands shook so badly I dropped the phone, terror and anxiety threatening to overwhelm months of progress. When I called Tara in panic, she came immediately, staying overnight on my futon to ensure I wasn't alone with my fear. "Whatever happens tomorrow," she promised, "you won't face it alone." The evening of the gallery opening arrived with perfect early summer weather, soft golden light illuminating the converted warehouse space in Boston's Arts District. Sophia had positioned my 5 pieces prominently near the entrance, ensuring visitors encountered them immediately upon arrival. Seeing my work professionally displayed alongside established artists created a surreal feeling of accomplishment mixed with imposter syndrome. My centerpiece installation, Reflection Rejection, commanded attention in its dedicated alcove. The transformed Christmas mirror now formed a complex mosaic, where fragments aligned to create a rising phoenix figure, emerging from broken glass, each cruel word countered by handwritten affirmations in gold leaf. Small spotlights created prismatic reflections that danced across the surrounding walls. Tara arrived early for moral support, dressed more formally than I'd ever seen her. "This is a big deal," she insisted, straightening my simple black dress. "Your first real gallery show deserves celebration regardless of who might show up." The first hour passed in a blur of introductions and surprising praise. Art enthusiasts asked thoughtful questions about my technique and inspiration. A writer from a local arts publication requested an interview for next week's issue. Sophia introduced me to several serious collectors who expressed interest in commissioning custom pieces. Just as I began relaxing into the evening's success, the gallery door opened to reveal my entire family entering as a coordinated unit. My father in his bespoke suit, mother in designer evening wear, James and Amanda in matching sophisticated outfits, Kimberly and Elliot radiating privileged confidence. They moved through the space like they owned it. Champagne flutes immediately provided by unwitting staff who recognized expensive clothing as signaling importance. My breath caught as they approached my installation, Tara's hand squeezing mine in solidarity. Sophia noticed the sudden tension and moved protectively closer. My father examined reflection rejection with clinical detachment before turning to address me loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. Using family property for commercial purposes without permission borders on theft, Allie, he stated coldly. That mirror was a gift not material for your little crafts. My mother's smile remained fixed as she added, We're disappointed you've chosen to air private family matters so publicly. Very tasteless. James adopted his professional doctor tone. This display suggests unresolved psychological issues that concern us medically. Have you considered inpatient treatment options? Kimberly wasn't as subtle, pulling out her phone to record my reaction. This will make perfect content for explaining your absence at our wedding. My sister had a mental break and started calling perfectly normal family dynamics abuse. So dramatic. The gallery had grown quieter as other guests noticed the confrontation unfolding. My initial reaction was familiar panic, the freeze response I developed through years of family conditioning. My vision tunneled, breath shortened, and for a moment I considered fleeing to the bathroom to hide. Instead, I excused myself from Tara and Sophia, walking calmly toward the gallery's small office space. Inside, I splashed cold water on my face and practiced the breathing techniques my therapist had recommended for anxiety attacks. The face in the mirror above the sink looked frightened, but also determined in a way my younger self would never have recognized. When I returned to the main gallery, my family had cornered Sophia, my father gesturing emphatically while my mother spoke in urgent whispers. I caught fragments about legal liability and defamation concerns. You'll remove these pieces immediately, my father was demanding, or our attorneys will file injunctions by morning. Sophia maintained professional composure, but relief flooded her expression when she spotted me approaching. These are your parents, she confirmed, stepping aside to give me space to address them directly. Instead of shrinking beneath their collective glare, I found myself standing straighter. Months of therapy support from genuine friends and the tangible evidence of my creative growth converged into unexpected strength. Yes, these are the people who gave me the broken mirror as a Christmas gift. I confirmed, voice steady despite my racing heart. The same people who wrote failure, disappointment, and family shame across the glass. Several nearby guests gasped, eyes moving between my family's suddenly uncomfortable expressions and the transformed mirror installation that clearly displayed the original cruel words. You're taking everything out of context, my mother hissed, social smile slipping. It was an intervention because we care. If you cared, I replied evenly, you wouldn't be threatening legal action against my first gallery showing. You would be celebrating my success. This isn't success, my father countered dismissively. It's exploitation of private family matters for attention. Actually, interrupted a man who had been quietly observing the exchange, this is extraordinary work demonstrating remarkable technical skill and emotional authenticity. He extended his business card, Martin Reynolds, art critic, Boston Globe. My father's approach instantly shifted to charm mode. Martin, I didn't see you there. You know how families can be creative differences of opinion. We're actually very supportive of Allison's hobbies. Interesting, Martin replied, gaze moving deliberately to the installation where the word liar was clearly visible among my family's original insults. I'd love to hear more about the inspiration behind this powerful piece, Ms. Montgomery. Perhaps over coffee next week for my feature article. Before my father could interject, security staff appeared at Sophia's discreet signal. Is there a problem here? The lead guard asked. These individuals are harassing one of our featured artists and threatening legal action against the gallery, Sophia explained calmly. They're no longer welcome at this private event. My family's expressions ranged from shock to outrage as they were firmly but professionally escorted toward the exit. My mother's parting words carried clearly, This isn't over, Allison. Family matters should stay within the family. As they disappeared through the doors, the tension that had gripped my body for 32 years began dissolving into unexpected laughter. The absurdity of their performance, so transparent to outsiders, yet so controlling in my private life, suddenly seemed almost comical in its melodrama. Rather than destroying the evening, their appearance transformed it. Attendees who had observed the confrontation approached with new interest in my work, connecting the emotional context to the artistic expression in ways that deepened their engagement. Martin Reynolds requested an extended interview, fascinated by the authentic story behind the installation. By evening's end, all 5 of my pieces displayed red, sold dots, including the centerpiece installation purchased by a prominent collector for a sum that exceeded my annual salary from both jobs combined. Sophia handed me a stack of business cards from potential clients interested in commissions, while Martin promised prominent placement in next Sunday's art section. As Tara, Sophia, and I celebrated with late dinner at a nearby restaurant, Martin's feature article title appeared in my email inbox for approval: Breaking Reflections: How Artist Ali Montgomery Transformed Family Cruelty into Transcendent Art. My phone continuously chimed with social media notifications as images from the exhibition spread across art community platforms. Each notification represented validation of my vision and talent concepts my family had systematically denied throughout my life. The evening that should have been my undoing instead became my professional birth. In trying to humiliate me publicly, my family had inadvertently provided the authentic emotional narrative that distinguished my work in a crowded field. Their cruelty had transformed into my creative catalyst, their rejection into my most powerful asset. As I raised a glass with my chosen family of supportive friends, I realized the Christmas mirror had fulfilled its purpose after all, just not the one my family intended. It had indeed shown me a true reflection, not of failure, but of resilience, waiting to emerge from broken pieces. The weeks following the gallery confrontation brought seismic shifts to my personal and professional life. Martin Reynolds' feature article in the Boston Globe Sunday Arts section exceeded my wildest expectations. Instead of a small mention, he devoted an entire page to my work, complete with color photographs and an in-depth analysis of how trauma transformation creates authentic artistic expression. Montgomery's masterful reflection-rejection installation represents a new voice in contemporary mixed media, he wrote. The technical precision of glass arrangement combined with emotional honesty creates an immersive experience rarely found in emerging artists. The personal narrative enhances, rather than overshadows, the exceptional artistic merit. The article circulated widely through social media, amplified by Sophia's gallery network and Tara's enthusiastic sharing. Within days, my online portfolio traffic increased tenfold. Previous works that had languished unsold for months suddenly found buyers. Commission requests flooded my inbox faster than I could respond. Most significantly, Eleanor Blackwell, the collector who purchased my centerpiece installation, contacted me directly about creating a series of similar pieces for her private gallery in New York. Her offer included an advance substantial enough that I could reduce my receptionist hours to part-time, dedicating more time to creating art. Your work speaks to the resilience of the human spirit, Eleanor wrote. I'd like to showcase an entire collection exploring this theme in my fall exhibition. With my first significant commission contract signed, I began searching for more suitable living and working arrangements. My tiny studio apartment, while a crucial first step toward independence, couldn't accommodate the larger pieces Eleanor had requested. Through Sophia's artist connections, I found a converted warehouse loft in an emerging creative district with abundant natural light and double the square footage at only slightly higher rent. Moving day arrived exactly 6 months after the Christmas mirror incident. As Tara and Sophia helped transport my belongings, the contrast between this move and my Christmas night escape couldn't have been starker. Instead of fleeing with nothing but trauma and determination, I was advancing deliberately toward a future of my own design. My new loft became both home and professional studio, with dedicated areas for different artistic processes. The open concept space allowed me to work on multiple projects simultaneously, essential for balancing commission deadlines with personal creative exploration. As my professional life flourished, my family's attempts to reestablish contact grew increasingly desperate. Their initial threats of legal action mysteriously disappeared after Martin's article mentioned their Christmas gift, specifically. Instead, they shifted to revisionist history and public image management. A mutual acquaintance forwarded me a local society page interview, where my mother claimed she had always encouraged Allison's artistic talents and was delighted by her recent success. My father was quoted describing himself as my earliest supporter, who had recognized her unique vision from childhood. Their brazen rewriting of history might have wounded me months earlier, but therapy had helped me recognize their behavior patterns. Their concern wasn't for my well-being, but for their reputation in Boston's social circles, where my rising profile and the truth about our estrangement threatened their carefully constructed image. James attempted a more direct approach, leaving voicemails on my new number, obtained somehow through his medical connections, expressing clinical concern about my distorted perceptions, and offering to mediate family reconciliation. Each message concluded with subtle reminders of my past dependence and implied instability without their guidance. Kimberly's tactics were less subtle. She repeatedly tagged my professional accounts in social media posts about family loyalty and artistic temperaments, clearly attempting to provoke public responses. When ignored, she escalated to sending wedding invitations to both my old apartment and the gallery, followed by guilt-inducing messages about my absence, devastating our parents. Their coordinated campaign might have succeeded months earlier when my confidence remained fragile. Now, with genuine support, professional validation, and financial independence, I recognize their attempts for what they were: manipulation rather than love, control rather than connection. In late summer, a surprising email arrived from my former boyfriend, Jack. He had seen Martin's article and wanted to reconnect over coffee to celebrate my success. Initially flattered, I agreed to meet at a neutral cafe near my new studio. Jack arrived wearing expensive designer clothes, his casual confidence seemingly unchanged from our college days. After initial pleasantries and reminiscence, his real purpose emerged through carefully crafted compliments and strategic touches. "I always knew you had this potential," he claimed, though I clearly remembered his frustration with my artistic pursuits. "We made such a great team before your family complicated things. Now that you're established, we could be quite the power couple in the art scene." As he outlined our potential future together, I recognized familiar patterns from my family's behavior: the subtle repositioning to benefit from my success, the revisionist history erasing his own past, dismissal of my dreams, the assumption that I would welcome him back without accountability. "It was lovely catching up, Jack," I said, gathering my belongings after declining his offer of a second coffee. "But my life is moving in a different direction now." His expression briefly revealed the entitled anger beneath his charm. "You've changed, Allie. You used to be more forgiving, more accommodating." "Yes," I agreed simply. "That's exactly right." Walking away from Jack provided unexpected closure. I had outgrown not only my family's limitations, but also the relationships formed when I still believed their assessment of my worth. The woman who had accepted crumbs of affection and validation no longer existed. In her place stood someone who recognized manipulation in all its forms. By contrast, my growing friendship with Daniel, an art history professor who frequented gallery events, offered a study in healthy relationship dynamics. He expressed genuine interest in my creative process, offered thoughtful feedback without domination, and respected my boundaries without taking offense. Our conversations flowed naturally between art theory, personal philosophies, and shared interests, creating connection without consumption. When he finally asked me to dinner, not as colleagues, but perhaps something more, the contrast with Jack's entitled assumption couldn't have been clearer. Daniel's approach left space for my agency, offered transparency about his intentions, and acknowledged the significance of trust in my circumstances. Our relationship developed slowly, built on mutual respect and clear communication. For the first time, I experienced romance without manipulation, affection, without agenda and support, without sacrifice of self. As autumn approached, preparations for Eleanor's New York exhibition consumed my creative energy. The opportunity to showcase a complete collection in Manhattan represented exposure to international collectors and critics beyond anything I could have imagined a year earlier. The week before my departure for New York, a certified letter arrived from my parents' attorney. Expecting legal threats, I was surprised to find a different kind of manipulation. My mother had reportedly been diagnosed with early-stage breast cancer. The letter regretfully informed me that my continued estrangement was causing dangerous stress during her treatment, and family reconciliation would significantly benefit her medical prognosis. No medical documentation accompanied these claims. No direct communication from my mother herself. Just legal letterhead and emotional blackmail thinly disguised as medical concern. After consulting both my therapist and a legal advisor, I made a difficult but necessary decision. I authorized an anonymous donation to a breast cancer treatment center in my mother's name, covering potential out-of-pocket expenses not addressed by their excellent insurance. I followed with a brief direct email to my father. I've arranged financial support for any treatment costs. This fulfills any obligation of care without requiring contact that would be detrimental to my mental health. Please respect my boundaries going forward. His response came within minutes, revealing the probable fabrication of the crisis. Your mother would prefer your presence to your money. This cold response proves how self-centered you've become. The emotional trap was clear. They wanted neither my money nor my genuine concern, but rather my submission and return to their control. Setting firm boundaries despite the serious medical context was the most difficult test of my recovery journey. Yet maintaining them protected the life and career I'd built from their destructive patterns. 2 days later, I boarded a train to New York, leaving behind the manipulations of my past to embrace the professional future I'd created. As Massachusetts disappeared behind me, I realized the broken Christmas mirror had inadvertently given me the most valuable gift possible, the clarity to finally see myself through my own eyes, rather than their distorted reflection. The Manhattan art scene embraced my work with unexpected enthusiasm. Eleanor Blackwell's gallery in Chelsea positioned my collection titled Broken: A Study in Resilience as the centerpiece of her fall showcase. The opening night attracted not only serious collectors, but also critics from major publications and representatives from several prominent museums. Standing in the professionally lit gallery space, surrounded by my transformed pain and watching visitors engage emotionally with each piece created an almost out-of-body experience. The frightened girl who once hid sketches under her mattress now commanded attention in one of the world's most competitive art markets. Your timing is impeccable, Eleanor confided during a quiet moment. The art world is hungry for authentic emotional narrative, combined with technical innovation. You've arrived at the perfect intersection of both. The New York Times critic described my work as hauntingly resonant, creating beauty from destruction with unflinching honesty. Art News featured a full-page spread on my mirror techniques. 3 museums expressed interest in acquiring pieces for their permanent collections of contemporary art. By the end of opening weekend, every piece had sold for substantially more than Eleanor's already generous pricing. Serious collectors competed for the larger installations, driving final prices well beyond our expectations. Commission requests poured in faster than I could possibly fulfill them, necessitating a waiting list managed by Eleanor's staff. The financial reality of my success became clear when my accountant called with urgent advice about managing the sudden income. The advance paid for my Manhattan collection, combined with sales commissions and future project deposits, had transformed my financial situation overnight. For the first time in my life, I needed investment strategies rather than budgeting tactics. With Eleanor's guidance, I reinvested a significant portion into a proper studio space in Boston, a converted industrial building with soaring ceilings, professional lighting, and dedicated areas for different artistic processes. The purchase represented not just a professional upgrade, but a symbolic statement of permanence and legitimacy. While I was still in New York, Daniel called with news of his own. He'd been offered a prestigious curatorial fellowship at the Museum of Modern Art, a career-defining opportunity that would bring him to New York for the next academic year. "I'm thrilled for you," I told him honestly, our 6-month relationship having developed into something deeply supportive without possessive expectations. "It's perfect timing for both of us," he responded. "Your New York success, my fellowship. But I don't want to assume anything about what this means for us. Your independence is something I deeply respect." His careful consideration of my boundaries, even amid exciting shared opportunities, reinforced how different healthy relationships were from the controlling dynamics I'd grown up with. We agreed to continue our relationship across cities, neither making demands nor taking the other for granted. Upon returning to Boston, I discovered my family had made one final attempt to insert themselves into my success. My father had given an interview to a local business publication describing himself as my earliest investor, who had recognized raw talent that needed proper direction. He claimed the Christmas mirror incident had been misrepresented and was actually tough love from concerned parents that had motivated her breakthrough work. In the same article, my mother was quoted saying she had always encouraged Allie's artistic expression within practical boundaries and was delighted her daughter had finally found commercial success with her hobby. The calculated rewriting of history included James attributing my artistic temperament to genetic creative tendencies from our mother's family. Rather than responding publicly, I channeled my reaction into a new series of work titled Revisionist History, incorporating newspaper clippings and fabricated memories into fractured glass arrangements. The creative transformation of their manipulation became another distinctive element in my artistic vocabulary, turning their continued toxicity into creative fuel rather than emotional damage. Meanwhile, Tara and Sophia remained my steadfast support system, celebrating each success without envy and providing genuine feedback when needed. Our weekly dinners became anchoring points amid the whirlwind of professional demands, reminding me that achievement without authentic connection held little lasting value. 6 months after the New York exhibition, my career reached another milestone. The Broken Mirrors Foundation approached me about establishing a grant program for emerging artists from challenging backgrounds. The foundation would provide studio space materials, mentorship, and exhibition opportunities for talented individuals whose circumstances might otherwise prevent artistic development. Your story resonated deeply with our board, the foundation director explained. We'd like you to help design the program based on what would have helped you earlier in your journey. The opportunity to transform my painful experience into tangible support for others brought my journey full circle. Working with the foundation team, I created a comprehensive program addressing not just material needs, but also the psychological support crucial for artists from dysfunctional backgrounds. Our first grant recipient was Maya, a gifted sculptor whose abusive family situation echoed aspects of my own history. Watching her blossom with appropriate support and mentorship provided healing I hadn't known I still needed. Her journey from tentative self-doubt to creative confidence mirrored my own path while following its unique trajectory. By the following spring, my professional success had stabilized into a sustainable career, rather than a spectacular anomaly. My work commanded respect in serious art circles, featured in major collections and prestigious galleries across the country. Financial security allowed me to select projects based on creative interest rather than survival necessity. More importantly, therapy had helped me process the deep emotional wounds inflicted throughout my childhood. I understood that my family's treatment reflected their own brokenness rather than any inherent flaw in me. Their need to diminish others to feel significant to control rather than connect to maintain appearance over authenticity. These patterns existed long before my birth and would continue regardless of my success or failure. My relationship with Daniel evolved into a partnership of equals, each supporting the other's ambitions while maintaining individual identities. When he completed his New York fellowship and returned to Boston, we decided to share a home while maintaining separate workspaces, a balance of togetherness and independence that honored both connection and autonomy. The final communication from my family arrived unexpectedly, a formal letter from their attorney announcing my father's retirement from surgical practice and requesting my attendance at his recognition ceremony as a gesture of family unity. The carefully worded invitation included subtle implications that my absence would raise unfortunate questions about family dynamics during a public celebration of his career. After discussing the invitation with my therapist and Daniel, I sent a brief, clear response, a donation to the hospital's surgical department in my father's name, along with my regrets that prior commitments prevented my attendance. No justifications, no emotional engagement, just polite detachment from their continued manipulation attempts. Reports from mutual acquaintances confirmed my family maintained their revisionist narrative about our relationship claiming busy schedules, and my artistic temperament explained our limited contact. In public settings, they displayed my earliest, safest works purchased through intermediaries, positioning themselves as supportive patrons rather than the subjects of my most powerful pieces. Their desperate need to maintain appearances might have once wounded me. Now it simply confirmed the wisdom of my boundaries. The broken mirror they had intended as my destruction had instead become the foundation of my reconstruction, each fragment reflecting not their cruel judgment, but my own resilient truth. 2 years after that Christmas night, I completed the final transformation of every mirror fragment into new artwork. The last piece, titled "What Was Broken Makes Me Whole," incorporated the frame that had once held their cruelty, now filled with prismatic glass, arranged to catch and scatter light in all directions. Where darkness and distortion once dwelled, illumination and clarity now radiated. During the quiet moments in my studio watching light dance through this final transformed piece, I realized the profound irony. In trying to break me with that mirror, my family had inadvertently shown me who they truly were, and in doing so freed me to discover who I actually am, when not defined by their distorted reflection. The broken mirror became both my wound and my healing, my trauma and my triumph, my prison and my liberation. Through its fractured surface, I finally saw myself clearly, not as the failure they labeled me, but as an artist capable of transforming pain into beauty, rejection into connection, and brokenness into wholeness. What was intended to destroy me became the foundation upon which I built a life of authenticity and purpose. The mirror that once reflected their cruel judgment now reflects only the light I choose to create. Have you ever experienced someone trying to define your worth through their distorted perspective? How did you reclaim your own self-image? Share your story in the comments below, and remember to subscribe for more journeys of resilience and transformation. Like this video if it resonated with you. And remember, sometimes the clearest reflection of who you truly are only emerges when all the false mirrors have been shattered. Thank you for listening to my story.